Hello and welcome to this Pembroke College Personal Statement presentation. My name is Libby and I'm the Admissions and Schools Liaison Officer at Pembroke College. So in today's video, we're going to be covering lots of information about personal statements and what they are. I'm also going to be giving you some top tips as well as things to avoid when it comes to drafting and writing your very own personal statement. So firstly, what actually is a personal statement? Well, your personal statement forms part of your UCAS application. If you're applying to Cambridge or Oxford, then the deadline for submitting your application via UCAS is the 15th of October. This is an earlier deadline, and it's the same deadline for most medicine, veterinary medicine, and dentistry courses. The personal statement is an important part of your UCAS application, and it's your opportunity to tell your chosen universities why you would like to study a particular subject, and for you to show your enthusiasm for the course by demonstrating the wider exploration you've carried out around that subject area. It's important to remember that the same personal statement will be sent to all of your university choices on UCAS, and this is why it's important that your personal statement is really focused on the subject you've applied for and isn't focused on individual universities. Now we're going to move on to some of the finer details about personal statements. How long can it be? Well, your personal statement can be a maximum of 4,000 characters. That's about one side of A4. That's not a lot of space, so you'll need to spend time planning and drafting your personal statement several times to make sure it's as effective as possible. It's a formal piece of writing, a bit like a short essay, and we would like to see the majority of it to be academic in focus. This means talking about your personal exploration of the subject you've applied to study through supercurricular activities, wider exploration, and discussing your areas of interest within that subject. So what do we actually mean when we say supercurricular exploration? Well, by supercurricular activities, what we mean is additional exploration of your chosen subject beyond your school curriculum. This can take many forms, whether you have read a book or a journal article, listened to a podcast, watched a documentary or a TED Talk, worked through some difficult maths problems beyond your syllabus, or watched an online lecture. There are loads of different ways to engage with your subject beyond your school curriculum, and it's these activities that we're particularly interested in hearing about. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to give you some ideas of where you might look for this wider exploration of your subject. So, how important are extracurricular activities? By this, we mean the things that you do outside of school that are not related to your subject, so things like playing sport or a musical instrument. Well, admissions decisions are based on academic criteria, and so whether or not a student participates in extracurricular activities that are not relevant to the course won't be taken into account and will not affect your chance of being made an offer. This is because we understand that every student has many different opportunities available to them. We also understand that you may be applying to other universities which do take these into account, so you won't be penalised for mentioning any extracurricular activities you do on your personal statement. It's important to remember that these should still only make up a small proportion of your overall statement, and if you can link these extracurricular activities to any transferable skills you've gained which would relate to your suitability for the course, then this would be a good way to include them. So we've spent some time talking about what a personal statement is, and we've discussed the types of things you should be writing about in your personal statement. So next, what are we looking for in a good personal statement? Firstly, as we've already mentioned, the same personal statement is sent to all of your UCAS choices. It's for this reason that it's important that your personal statement is really focused on the subject or course that you've applied for. Don't worry if the course titles differ slightly between universities, but you should really be applying for similar degrees, and this will help your personal statement to be really focused on that subject. Now, the next 3 points go quite well together. We want students to be honest when they're writing a personal statement. That means only talking about things that you have done to explore your subject. And a personal statement is exactly that, personal. So we're keen to see what your interests in the subject are. If you're invited to an interview at Cambridge, your interviewer may want to ask you some questions which are based around things you've mentioned in your personal statement. So it needs to be honest, and that's why it's important that you've actually done or read what you say you have. Hopefully, you'll also find it much easier to engage with topics that genuinely interest you. Lastly, we're not just looking for a checklist of things you've read or watched or listened to that are related to your subject. We're looking for students to pick out a few key examples and to go into depth about these. Don't just tell us what you've done, but show us through analysis and a deeper engagement with the resources you've used. This is how your enthusiasm and passion for that subject will come through. Okay, so we've talked about what we are looking for, but here are a few things you should avoid doing when writing personal statements. Plagiarism. We've already mentioned that a personal statement should reflect your own interests in the subject and why this is important. You shouldn't be copying other people's ideas and work, and UCAS also has a system in place to identify and report personal statements which have been plagiarised. You should also avoid using information in your personal statement. You should also avoid using informal language in your personal statement. Treat it like an academic piece of work. Quotes, you don't have much space. As we've already discussed, only 4,000 characters, that's about a side of A4. So don't waste characters with somebody else's words. We want to hear from you. So avoid using quotes unless there's a clear reason for doing so. That links on to our next point, which is avoiding using jokes and cliches. We all have our different styles of humour, which may not always translate well or come across as you intended in a written piece of work. That's why it's best to avoid making jokes. Save them for when you start making friends at university. You should also try to avoid sounding clever by using fancy words. This can seem appealing, especially as you're writing about academic activities, but you'll find it so much easier to express your thoughts and ideas if you're using your own words and not relying on a thesaurus. We've already mentioned this one a little bit, but avoiding a shopping list or checklist of everything that you've done. It will be hard to go into enough depth and analysis of your supercurricular engagement if you just list all of the things you have done to prepare. Pick a few of the best examples and spend some time going into more detail about these. It really is quality over quantity. Now, earlier I mentioned that your personal statement might form the basis for a discussion if you're invited to be interviewed at Cambridge. But how would this actually work in practice, and what can you do to best prepare yourself? Well, one of the reasons an interviewer might choose to discuss an aspect of your personal statement is to help you feel relaxed. Interviewers understand that interviews can be quite a stressful situation for applicants, so discussing your personal statement might be a way to help ease you into an interview environment. After all, your personal statement should be discussing areas of the subject that you are genuinely interested in and are passionate about. That's why it's a good idea to reread your personal statement before an interview. Don't submit your UCAS form in October and not think about it again until December. It's also a good idea to not only reread your personal statement, but to re-engage with it. Have any of your ideas or opinions changed since you wrote it? Have you read or watched something related to your subject since submitting your personal statement which has reinforced your ideas or opened up new ideas and thoughts? Re-engaging with your personal statement is also a good way to make sure that you're confident to talk about everything in it. And this will probably mean rereading or re-engaging with any subject material that you've written about. We've also put together this picture cloud of resources, which we hope will be a good starting point for seeking out material and resources to help you with that supercurricular subject exploration. Now, this is by no means an exhaustive or prescriptive list, but feel free to come back to this slide if you're stuck for ideas of where to look for subject-focused material and content. So, thank you so much for watching this personal statement presentation. We hope you enjoyed it and learned a lot. Feel free to contact us via email to ask us any questions you may have, whether it's about applying to Cambridge or personal statements. And you can also give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram at PemCam Outreach, where we'll be posting lots more helpful hints and tips for supercurricular study and wider subject exploration. Thanks, bye.